It's a fight just to make it to the top. Gotta prove yourself. Show 'em what you got. Number one, it's a fight just to make it to the top. Gotta prove yourself and show 'em what you got. Number one, it's a fight just to make it to the top. Gotta prove yourself. Show 'em what you got. Number one, it's a fight just to make it to the top. Gotta prove yourself and show 'em what you got. Number one.
Welcome to Educators for Life, a winning world show with Shermanda. Coming to inspire, motivate, encourage, to shed light, and bring hope. We will share testimonies and share stories of people from around the world who have chosen to live triumphant lives on purpose, overcoming adversities. And now, a winning world show with Shermanda.
Gotta prove yourself and show 'em what you got. Number one.
The righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivereth them out of their troubles. The Lord is nigh unto them that are broken heart, and saveth such as of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. Psalms 34:17-18. Great day, beloveds. I hope this is greeting and meeting you in peace, good health, and that you are lacking no good thing. I'm honored to have you on this morning with me. And so without delay, I'm going to dive right into showcasing the winning stories. We just left the month of breast cancer awareness, and I was doing some research on certain statistics. We hear, see, and come across so many women talking about breast cancer and battling this beast of a disease almost daily. Statistics show that not counting some kinds of skin cancer, breast cancer in the United States is the most common cancer in women, no matter their race or ethnicity. The most common cause of death from cancer are among Hispanic women. Something I did not know. The second most common cause of death from cancer among white, black, Asian, Pacific Islander and American women, Alaska Native women. But did you know that men also can develop breast cancer? It's something that I had never heard of until, doing some research, and I came across several stories. Yes, in the research, I found that though it is rare, men too face this dreaded disease. The report stated less than 1% of all breast cancers occur in men. For men, the lifetime risk of being diagnosed with breast cancer is about 1 in 1,000. In this year alone, about 2,500 men are expected to be diagnosed with the disease. And I did a look into the survival rate, for a 5-year span. And we're looking at stage 2. You have about a 91% of a recovery. Stage 3, it's about 72% recovery. And when you go beyond that to a stage 4, you're looking at about 20% of a recovery rate. Out of the nearly 2,500 men that will be diagnosed in the United States alone, there are an estimated 266,120 women with some type of invasive breast cancer, and 63,900 of them will be diagnosed with something called situ breast cancer this year alone. For those wondering, as what is situ breast cancer? It is ductal carcinoma, which is a non-invasive breast cancer. Breast cancer will claim the lives of an estimated 41,400 this year, and of that will be approximately 40,900 women and 480 men. I'm truly drawn in to do more research here as to why women numbers are so high, but we will save that for another day. Today's guest has beat the odds and has rang the bell as of now and for life in victory. And oddly enough, he's in the odds of developing the cancer. Our guest, of course, yes, he is a male, born and raised in Atlanta, married and a father of a beautiful little girl, loves spending time with his family and friends, being outdoors, hiking, spending time on the lake, or running obstacle courses and races. A cancer survivor. Help me welcome Aubrey Glencamp. Welcome, Aubrey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am blessed and honored to have you with us. And forgive me, I have a little cold this morning, so I'm
No problem.
making it through here. But you know, coming across your story, what really was amazing to me because I did not know that men could develop breast cancer. So can you tell us a little bit about your growing up before going into that?
Sure. I actually grew up here in Atlanta, Georgia. Born and raised. It's very rare to find a born Native American, or excuse me, Native Atlantean. But yeah, born here and went off to school up in North Georgia. But yeah, pretty much stayed here in Atlanta pretty much all my life.
Okay, and how was your growing up? What was it like? What was the family life?
Family life was good. My parents actually divorced when I was young, but that never changed anything as far as, you know, their love for me, and I was able to spend time with both parents, you know, so it never was a lack of, you know, not having a father or not being around my mother. So it was a family dynamic, but just a different family dynamic.
Different. And we've heard on the show so many different forms of divorce in the last couple of weeks. So it's refreshing and good to hear that, you know, you all were able to balance it out and you didn't, you know, end up in lack of having mom or dad in your life.
That's true. Definitely.
So Aubrey, I know that you are here to talk about your breast cancer, but there were some other challenges that you came to have to overcome before reaching this hurdle. Can you go into, you know, going into your college years?
Right. When I was 19, I was in college and doing well, and I started having some blackouts after, you know, playing basketball or doing activities like that. And I thought it was just based on, you know, overexerting myself. I had a lot of classes, so lack of sleep. And then we noticed it happened again. And at that point in time, we actually went down and I went to a cardiologist, and they noticed some kind of mass around my heart, but they weren't sure exactly what it was. And I was going to get scheduled for an MRI, and it was probably 2 weeks away from my my appointment. And I was taking a test in college and blacked out. So I wasn't doing anything strenuous or anything. I was just taking a test, and at that point in time, the doctor told me to come down right away. I came down to Emory, and they were prepping me for open heart surgery, which was a shocker to all of us, not knowing that, you know, what the outcome would be. So that happened when I was 19. So I had open heart surgery. They removed the tumor that was surrounding my heart. That was basically what was causing the blackouts. And as a safety precaution, they installed a defibrillator just to make sure, you know, it was able to monitor my heart and get regular checks just to make sure that that growth isn't growing back.
Wow, what was that feeling to you?
It was crazy because not knowing and being so young, you know, I remember my mom wanted the doctor to run all of these tests, and the part that I guess got all of us was he said, you know, we can spend time running these tests or, and he can die, or we can go ahead and do the surgery and, you know, remove what we need to remove. So for me, that was, definitely a life changer, and just, you know, make you think about how important life is and making sure every day you live life, you know, to the utmost and enjoy everything that you have.
And what changes did you make after coming out of that surgery?
I think for the most part, it was just, you know, try different things. Like, you know, if you want to go do certain things, whether it's hiking or seeing the world, you know, to do that, don't wait. And just live life more than just, you know, worried about work or worried about school. I just had a very go-getter spirit and, you know, wanted to see the world or wanted to do things that I never have done before.
Wow. So where are some of the places that you traveled to?
I haven't got it. Well, when I was growing up, I traveled to Alaska, which was my all-time favorite. Would love to go back. I spent a couple summers up there I've also gone over to Germany, and that was quite an experience growing up. And I stayed a summer over there and played baseball. So that was fun. And then other than that, I just stayed around, domestically and went to, different states. But that was the extent of my international travel.
So leading into, before we go into, why you're here, what did you do in life? I know you've done a lot of races and things of that nature. Can you go into some of, your life, in college, after college?
Sure. So while I was when I graduated from college, I actually married my college sweetheart at the time. So we got married when we were young. So we were 23 when we got married. So that was what we did. And then after that, it just started off with me, working at different places. But at the same time, I started to get more involved with, different activities. Growing up, I played soccer, all the way up into college. And then after that, it kind of died out. I did a lot of theater, which was one of my all-time favorites, and I wish I could get back into doing that. But just to see how people laughed and cried and getting different people's emotions. So my life mission after that was, how can I brighten someone's day? How can I make someone else, feel inspired? And I joined an organization while I was started working out, which is called I Run for Michael. And it's an organization where we basically, athletes are linked to kids or adults with different disabilities, whether it's physical or mental. And I had the pleasure of being linked to a kid named Jacob who lives in Las Vegas. And I actually went out there, met him and his family, and then I ran a race that was the Biggest Loser 5K in Las Vegas, and I was able to bring him across the finish line. So to me, that was the greatest experience ever, just to see, how well that helped. And, his family told me that he doesn't have a lot of male role models, and me taking the time to come out there and, corresponding with him on Facebook and making him feel special is one of the great things that he has in his life.
Oh, and how old is Jacob now?
Jacob is 13, just hit 13. So when I met him, he was turning 10, and now he just turned 13 in October.
Now, are they being affected in any way by the fires that are taking place out there in California? Or?
Not yet. Not from what I've heard. I think they're okay.
They're okay, because we're truly praying for those that are being affected with those fires at this time. So,
definitely.
After doing that for the I Run for Michael, are you still involved with this organization?
Yes, I'm still involved.
How did they how did this come about? Never heard of it.
It's an organization. Tim Boyle is the owner the founder. So he actually created the organization, and Michael is who he actually started running for. And so from there, it kind of took off, and there's a huge waiting list. And like I said, it's not only for the kids or adults that have the physical or mental disabilities, but they also have a siblings group. So if you're a sibling of someone with a disability and they have a runner, then there's a group specifically for them too as well. So it's a great organization, and it's so big now that there's a huge waiting list to link athletes with those with disabilities. So I think when I started, it was a 6-month waiting list because there was just so many runners that were interested in doing it.
Now, do you all raise money for the families, or what is the back end of the mission?
It's more or less establishing a personal relationship with the families. So some people may, donate or raise money for the families. More or less, it's just, being a support system at the end of the day.
So it's like big brother, big sister type of a thing for disability?
Exactly. And a lot of times people aren't necessarily in the same city as those that they're running for, so it's more of a virtual on Facebook type of thing. Okay. But you do have a lot of runners that will go out and meet the families and, you know, establish that bond from there.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, at what point did you go through your life stance when it came to cancer? What led into that? How was that discovery made?
My wife actually discovered it. It was Valentine's Day in 2016, and she noticed that there was some bump on the left side of my chest. Mm-hmm. And from there, I never felt it before, and I think, you know, me losing a lot of weight at the time, I was a little concerned and went to the doctor, and the doctor checked it out, and he thought, you know, maybe it's just some fatty tissue from you losing your weight. And he said, I'm not too concerned about it, but, you know, we'll try to get you in and scheduled. And I had a boot camp that I was getting ready to do, and I asked him if it was okay to do that, and he said, you know, by all means, go ahead. And probably 5 weeks after our initial meeting, I went to get a mammogram, which was, excuse me, very interesting as a guy. And, you know, with me being a guy and going in, you know, they really weren't sure what to do, so I had my mammogram done, and they found that there was a lump there, and they wanted to do a biopsy, so they scheduled me for a biopsy, and I asked them to schedule it the week after my boot camp, and surprisingly, I was able to win boot camp, which was my all-time goal. I didn't want to stop that process, but I had my biopsy done on that Monday, and on that Wednesday, they called me while I was at work and told me that I had stage 2 breast cancer.
Wow. And what was that like? What did you think?
I think initially it was shock. I was here at work, and I think I told my manager I just needed to leave, and I remember sitting in my car and asking God why, and, you know, where did it come from? And, you know, I had all of these different questions, but then there was like a peace that settled over me, and I was like, you know, if anybody can make it, I can definitely make it. And, you know, my whole goal or thought was that, you know, he picked the right person, and hopefully that what I was going through, I would be able to share with others.
Well, had you heard of men having cancer before you?
I've heard of men having breast cancer before, but never thought, you know, it would impact me. And, you know, you hear about different celebrities that have had it in the past, and but no one in my family had it. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is people sometimes think, you know, well, my mom had it or my grandmother had it or something like that. There is no one in my family that had any breast cancer. So they, you know, for me, it came out of nowhere.
Okay, so take us through the process.
So right after that, after I was diagnosed, then I had to meet with my oncologist and meet with a surgeon, and they basically put together my treatment plan. So because I was HER2 positive, which is an aggressive form of breast cancer, they wanted to go ahead and do surgery right away. So I was scheduled to do surgery, and I was going to have my left breast removed. And I also spoke to my doctor about having my right removed as well. So I did a double mastectomy, and that was just because I wasn't sure, with us not knowing where it came from. I wanted to, you know, have both removed just in case. So I met with the surgeon about that, and then the oncologist spoke to me about, you know, what chemotherapy would be like and how many rounds of chemotherapy and kind of my treatment thereafter. So leading up to it, the doctors wanted me to get genetics testing as well, just to see, you know, where it came from. And they asked me questions about my family and history and all of that. And when the results came back, there was no link anywhere. Mm-hmm. So that was a mystery within itself. And also, while I was going through that, before the surgery took place, and the oncologist, they also wanted me to go to a fertility clinic because my wife and I didn't have kids at the time. So they weren't sure by the time I go through all of my chemotherapy, if that would give me the opportunity to have kids later on. So they wanted me to visit a fertility clinic, but because of timing and everything, I never got a chance to do that.
But we know that you have a daughter.
I do. So that is what the blessing part about it is, because 2 days before I was scheduled to have surgery, we found out that my wife was pregnant.
That is nothing but a blessing. God had already planted the seed.
He already planted the seed, absolutely.
Wow, when you shared that with me, I said, oh my goodness, through it all, that is, like a miracle in and of itself, because you did not have a chance to go do what they were telling you would need to do, because it would be almost nearly impossible for you all to get pregnant, after you went through this process. And 2 days before, as you stated, you got the good news that you're already carrying a baby.
Exactly.
Wow, but such a blessing, and congratulations to both you and your wife for that. Tell us about the day that you were able to ring that bell.
Oh, that was a great day. I actually stopped chemotherapy at that point in time, and it had been a month, I believe, since my last treatment. And I remember going and seeing the bell, and that was a thing, from the very first day of chemotherapy. I think I saw someone actually ring the bell, and I was like, I can't wait to do that, because that just signifies that's the end of all of this, and being able to ring the bell was the greatest moment, I think, of my life, just because it ended one chapter and it allowed me to begin the next.
Now, how long was the process from the day that it started to ringing that bell for you? Because I know it was a period of chemotherapy.
It was. I believe I started chemotherapy in June, and I rang the bell in December. So I went through 5 treatments that were scheduled every 3 weeks or so. So as soon as, within those 3 weeks, the first week you're sick, and then the second week you're kind of coming out of it a little bit, and then by that 3rd week you're better, but then you're starting the process all over again. So seeing all that and knowing all that, it was, amazing just how fast time went by, but then also I could see the changes in myself just based on the chemo.
So you had actually 2 focuses once like you said, when you went into it, you had just been told you all had a baby. So you knew you had to fight for the baby.
Definitely.
And then when you get in, you see your target for this place because someone else is ringing the bell, and instantly it's like, okay, I can't wait to get there.
Exactly.
So what? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to just ask, what were your biggest motivations? I see 2 there, and maybe those are the 2. I'm not sure, but, what were the motivations of getting through that process?
Definitely my baby girl. Just, preparing for her and being excited, from the time I was young, I always knew I wanted to be a father and have that opportunity, and, to know that my wife was pregnant at the time, and to know that, I wanted to be done with treatment before she got here. It was definitely a motivating factor, and having family and friends that were there to support and take me to my appointments, and, it was definitely an eye opener and made things a little bit easier to, prepare for her to be here.
Yes. And your wife, tell us a little bit about your wife. And you all were married, at 11 years at this point?
13. We're just coming up on 13 years.
No, at the time of that you were...
Oh, at the time of, yes, 11 years at that time. So for her, she always thought that I could handle it because she was actually there. We were dating when I had my open heart in college. So, she knew I was definitely, would be able to push through, and so she wasn't too worried about that, and I think that was a good thing for me because I never wanted anyone around me that would be sad or kind of bringing the mood down, even though it is a tough situation to get through. But knowing that, you know, she was there and she supported me through it, and then she also was going through her own piece of carrying the baby. So, you know, she was occupied for sure.
Well, we celebrate you in your victory and ringing the bell, and your beautiful daughter, you know, coming through this process, through your 13 years of marriage. It's many celebrations that we send and rejoice with you on, because you're truly living a victorious and winning life. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. You know, Aubrey is a great example of how having faith is key when overcoming obstacles, when the odds seem to be stacked against you. Our state of mind is key, and trust and believe all things you allow to feed your mind through friends and family, media, television, radio, politics, etc. will determine your focus when the rubber meets the road. Aubrey had positive people around him, and that's something that I think he commanded, because we had talked before this time. And, you know, I'm reminded of the story of the foolish virgins and the wise virgins in the Bible, where the wise had stored up their oil and had managed that they had to be prepared, you know, for the feast. And the foolish ran out of theirs and wanted to get from the wise, and the wise said, no, go get your own. And by the time they came back, it was too late for the foolish, but the wise had stored up. And it is important for us to store up. And I'm also reminded of a little song, you know, be careful little ears, what you hear, be careful little eyes, what you see, be careful little mouths, what you say. You know, that thing just rings so clear. It's so important for us to store up and make sure that the nourishment that we're taking in daily is, you know, of good, in good ground, good word, positivity, and that we're running this race. And I want to say to you all, with love, hugs, and agape-filled fellowship kisses as always, I celebrate you this week as we're celebrating our Giving Thanks Week. Let Thanksgiving be in our hearts and on our lips daily throughout the year. Safe travels, healthy eating, and love, love, love.
Thanks for joining A Winning World with Shermanda. Do you have a story or testimony and would like to be considered for an interview on the show? Connect on Facebook at A Winning World or Educators for Life, or visit Shermanda.com. Telephone 904-533-5222, or email connect@educators4life.com. Tune in next week for more winning stories on A Winning World with Shermanda.
Number one.